Hi guys, welcome to channel 21st Age. My name is Vishnu Keeriyat and today we are going to explain the edit page inside Davinci Resolve 17. Truth be told, I didn't actually use cut page or media page until I was actually working in Davinci Resolve 15 for around 3 months because I didn't actually know the use of media and cut page. Everything can be done inside this edit page and this is kind of the secret sauce inside Davinci Resolve. Everything, I mean, right from importing even till delivery can be done inside Davinci Resolve 17's edit page. So stay tuned and watch till the end to know the whole sauce about edit page in Davinci Resolve 17. Let's get right into it. So we are inside Davinci Resolve's edit page and this is one of the most important page for an editor. If you haven't learned the media page, cut page or even the fusion or the fairlight page, it's kind of okay. But you have to learn the edit page in depth and in detail because everything that can be done in all other pages apart from the color page can be done inside the edit page. What I mean is, if you haven't actually seen the workflow video, I do recommend you to check this video first before you jump into this video or any kind of Davinci Resolve specific page tutorial videos, because you have to actually know what is the workflow for an editor in order to understand in detail what is actually happening inside Davinci Resolve or what is actually happening inside the editing process. Okay. So inside Davinci Resolve edit page, the most important things that you can actually have to learn is this media pool window. Media pool window is nothing but the media pool window which will be common to every kind of page here. Let it be the cut page, the media page, or even the fusion page. Okay. So let's just jump back to the edit page. So in order to actually import any kind of media here, you can actually go here to the media pool library and right click and just press import media or press Ctrl and I, and you can add any kind of media from your computer by selecting the files and going and searching for the files. But this is kind of a really long process because you have to go and search for the whole file inside the computer. So the easier process is to actually import it from the computer, from the folder directly. So I have actually found some tutorials that I have rendered out here. So if I want to actually import to the media pool, just drag and drop from the file and just drop it inside the media pool. So people who are new to the channel, if you don't actually see the media pool, just go and press this media pool icon on top and you can toggle on and toggle off the media pool window. So the next thing is the effect library, which is kind of really important inside media page because everything is present inside the effect library. If you go to the toolbox and go to the video transition window, this is the most useful thing inside Davinci Resolve and this is kind of a preset. Okay, so you don't actually have to create any kind of video transition from the scratch inside Davinci Resolve. You could either use the whole transitions which are given free as a preset by Davinci Resolve. And this is not a small thing because if you see here, this is iris transition where I usually use this transition to make the intro of my video so that it doesn't actually pop up suddenly to the viewers. So if you want to actually add a transition like this, you just have to drag and drop it to the clip. So I usually use this kind of transition in the beginning and the end of any kind of video. If you work with Resolve, Resolve for a long time, you would get the hang of it. Now if you see here, this is the transition that I have given. Now apart from this, you can actually customize your own transition by just clicking the transition or by clicking this effect and going to the inspector tablet. If you don't see the inspector tablet, just press this inspector button here and you can actually add a lot of other things and you can actually customize your transition by adding borders. If you add borders, you can have a white border here in the transition. You can increase and decrease the thickness, add a feather, or even change the color. The one systematic thing that I do for every kind of transition is to actually change this ease window from none to in and out. So if you are an experienced editor, you would know the importance of putting in ease in and ease out. Ease in and for those people who are not actually really versed with editing, as a general rule of thumb, try to change every kind of transition or every kind of effect as ease in and ease out. It will give you much more cinematic and much more smoother effects. So if you see here, this is the ease in. This is the effect which we have done with the ease in and ease out and without the ease in and ease out. You can see that this is having a minor change. But I think this is the best way.
Perfect. Okay. And details and 2 and 10 and the cone and the back. Okay. ഒന്നുകൊണ്ട് പേടിക്കേണ്ട ആവശ്യമില്ല.
So if you go to the custom, you can actually change the curve, transition curve. That is, if you can actually change the duration of ease in and ease out, which is kind of really cool. I'm not diving in detail about how to change the effect. You can play with the whole parameters here. You can actually change the length of the transition either by the time parameter or the frame parameter, or even actually change the type of iris here. So this is the basic transition which I use for intro of a video and outro of a video if I'm editing it. So you can actually change the parameter of the length by clicking the side of this transition and moving it. So another important thing that you have to know if you're adding any kind of transition is, like, if you go to this page, this is the whole transition which all the editors use frequently in any kind of travel videos or any kind of product videos. So if you see here, this is the zoom in and zoom out transition, which is kind of a really cliche inside the editing world. So in order to actually use this transition inside your video edit, just drag and drop it inside the video between these two clips or between any two clips that you want to add this transition. But the one thing that you have to actually note is that if you see here in this transition, I have actually applied this transition to the left side of the clip and the right side of the new clip. Okay, so the wrong way to do this transition, or the wrong way to apply this transition, is if I drag and drop in only one side of the clip. You can see that this transition is only applied to the left side of the left clip but not applied to the right clip. So if I play here, you can see that it's kind of really weird, because this is having this transition but the other video is coming in kind of in a very wrong way. So the correct way is to actually add this transition in between these two clips so that the transition will be on the left side of the left clip as well as on the right clip. So if you play here, this is the correct transition that we require. So this whole fusion transitions are preset that is given free by Davinci Resolve 17. But if you see here, there are other transitions which I have actually made, which is kind of really useful for my edit. If you require these transitions, just comment in the comment section. I will actually provide you the transition packs inside the description of the video. That is if you actually need it, then comment on the comment section and let me know. Okay, now next one is the audio transition. So if you see that audio transition is limited, but it's really powerful. If you want to actually switch two audios and you want a neat transition to happen, this is the thing. So I usually go for the cross dissolve at 0 dB. What it literally means is, like, if you see here, this is the dB curve which you can actually increase and decrease the volume. dB is nothing but a parameter which measures volume. More like what is kilometer to distance. The level of audio is measured by dB or decibels. Okay,
Perfect. Okay.
so if I just drop this thing inside the video, you can see that it's not being applied here. This is because this is an audio transition and it would be only applicable to the audio part of your video or audio part of your edit. So if you can see here, this is the thing that we have actually done. So if you want to actually see the effect of this thing, you need to actually design the audio in such a way, or have a requirement of cross dissolving of audio. And it's a big thing inside Davinci Resolve 17 because everything is having a preset. There are some custom presets here, but if you see here, these and all are actually present inside Davinci Resolve 17. So why do we need this? So if you see here, this is the basic text title, which is not any complicated text. So if you just drag and drop inside your timeline and select this new bar, which is known as text basic, you can actually go here to the inspector tablet and add in anything. So I'm actually adding in edit page 101. Okay, so if you see here, this is the text that we have actually done here. Here inside inspector you can change the font type and everything, like font face. Inside the font type there may be like bold, italic and italic bold, much like what we see inside the Microsoft Word. Even you can actually change the color, the size, and tracking is nothing but change the spacing between the words. You can actually add a little bit of animation here and there, but you can see that there is no kind of animation parameters here inside the text or the basic title text. So only animation that you can actually do here is inside the position and zoom and rotation. What I mean is this small diamond button here is the animator. So what animator does is, if I go to the first frame here somewhere here and press the position animator here and as well as the zoom animator and go to somewhere here and add a little bit of zoom and a little bit of position, you can see that the text is being animated right now. It's pretty cool. But the difference between the basic text tool and the text plus is kind of a day and night difference. I'm just putting the text plus tool inside our timeline and I'm just going to the normal text tool and copying this and pasting it on the text plus window here. Okay. I'm just zooming out in the timeline and just placing the text plus window somewhere here. Now text plus window is somewhat like a fusion text where you have a lot of options here and a lot of animation here. So if you can see, the difference between a normal text one and the text plus window is that there are a lot of animators here. You can even change the text type or the font type inside the animator. What I mean is controlled animator, which you can actually animate and change any kind of effects without going to the fusion page inside the edit page itself. It's a huge tool if you are actually editing for long hours and you just need a quick animation on your text. So you can see here, I could actually add a keyframe on the tracking here and go a little bit here and just introduce a tracking like this and increase the tracking to somewhat like this and go somewhere here and decrease it back to here. Okay, now you can see that this is happening. This is kind of really cool. That's the difference between text and text plus. There are a lot of other presets that are inside Davinci Resolve, and if you see here, some of them like rise fade are actually free inside Davinci Resolve 17, and this is the animation that you can get without learning any kind of fusion or any kind of animation. This is presets that are provided by Davinci Resolve 17. Title window is kind of really important. You can actually change everything here, and if you want to move anything, just go to the settings and you can actually change the zoom and position or rotation or crop or anything like that. Anything related to motion inside the settings and anything related to text inside the title page. So what I mean is, so as I said, there is a keyframe even at the text font type. So if I create a keyframe here and move a little bit somewhere here and change the text type, move a little somewhere here, change another text type, move a little somewhere here and change another text type, and I'm just pasting the editing 101 here. Now you can see that the text is being changed here. That's the whole beauty of animating here inside Davinci Resolve 17's text plus or any kind of fusion text plus things. So everything which have any kind of animation inside the title page is actually a text plus with a with some kind of animation inside. So if you want to actually inspect that, you just have to go to the fusion page here, and you can see that the rise fade is having nodes inside fusion page. If you don't know about fusion, don't get confused or don't get frightened about it, because it's not very complicated. You don't actually have to actually learn all this to actually animate, because everything is having a preset inside Davinci Resolve 17. So the next thing is the generator. I rarely use all these things, but it's really useful, such as grayscale, which is kind of really useful for color grading and stuff. But I definitely use this paper texture and noise gradient for my animation, which is kind of really cool for applying a background for any kind of animation, such as like this. If you just go here and I'm just placing the text plus on top of the paper. Now you can see that you have a clean paper or as a background, and you can actually do any kind of animation on top of it, which will give you a ease of not actually going out there and searching for a texture and coming back here and doing all this thing. So this, as you can see here, this is the Fusion template. So there you can actually change any kind of animation if you go to the Fusion page. If you don't know about Fusion, leave it there, let it be. Next thing inside the toolbar is the effect library, which is kind of a new thing which is introduced by the Davinci Resolve 17. Effect library will give you a lot of effects which you can actually apply to your videos, such as this binocular effect, which you just have to drag and drop to the video and you will get a binocular effect here. You can change the parameter here if you go to the effects tab inside the inspector tablet, and you can change the blur strength or the aberration distance or the vignettes. And anything can be done here inside inspectors effects library if you are doing any kind of effects. Okay, now the next thing is the open effects, which is kind of really useful. A lot of effects are not being there inside the free version of Davinci Resolve 17, but can be unlocked in the studio version. This is kind of really useful. You don't have to go to the Fusion for adding anything like this. Like noise reduction is a really important thing for everyone, so you can only unlock the professional noise reduction of Davinci Resolve 17, which is kind of a world-renowned noise reduction inside the Pro version or the Davinci Resolve 17 Studio version. But you still can actually use a lot of other things like zoom blur and stuff, which is kind of really good. If I'm going to the next clip and adding a zoom blur here, you can see that the zoom blur is actually happening in. So if you go to the effects and you can increase the zoom in and zoom out, increase the zoom amount and create a transition here. So I'm just going and adding 0 here. Okay, this is a base value and I'm just skipping like 5 frames here and adding a little bit of zoom here and somewhere here. Select the clip again, and okay, I didn't actually add a keyframe here, so I'm adding a keyframe, going somewhere here and coming back to 0. And somewhere here and coming back to 0. So here you can see that I have actually made a small effect by using a zoom blur here. You can actually use these effects and change the parameters here to create custom effects, which is kind of really cool for any kind of editor. And do check out every effects here. If I talk about every effects here, it would be kind of a 1-hour video for edit page. So I'll actually release each and every effects and how you can actually use these effects for your own advantage, for your music videos or dance commercials or even advertisements. Okay, so next thing is the audio effects, which is a huge thing inside the edit window, because every audio effects can be actually directly applied from here. If you can see here, reverb and everything is kind of a go-to audio effect for any kind of sound designing. The reverb is nothing but changing the audio type. You can actually change the settings of audio. Like if you actually have an audio which is recorded in a professional studio, but the scene or shot that you are actually working on is actually a shot inside a room, and you want to actually change the audio to match the audio for inside a room, then you can actually use reverb and change the audio type. Okay, there are a lot of other things like noise reduction, which is given by Davinci Resolve 17 even for the free version. You can use this noise reduction to actually reduce noise. If you're confused with the noise reduction here, I will make a separate video as a basic thumb rule. If you're going for any kind of speech, or if you're having a vocals, just use the auto speech mode, and manual mode is much more efficient, but you have to actually understand what is learn. If you actually come from an Audition background, in Audition there is a noise reduction plugin, and there you have these two things known as Control K and Control Shift K parameters, which actually learn specific noise from the audio and just treats that certain noise from the whole audio waveform. Now this is kind of really useful. You don't have to go to the Fairlight page to actually do any kind of audio transition or audio effects which are present inside the Fairlight page, but this is kind of a professional setup for audio transition or audio or building up your audio for your video, sound designing and everything. You can actually use the Fairlight window to actually enhance the workflow. So let's jump back to the edit page here. Now the next big thing that you have to learn is the inspector tablet. Inspector tablet is synonym for properties. And here in inspector tablets, much like Windows properties, you can change the properties. So if you go here, you can actually change the parameters like zoom, position, rotation, everything can be changed here. And if you press this icon here, this is the reset icon for this whole transform window, and this is individual reset buttons. So the big thing that you actually have to learn inside inspector tablet is the dynamic zoom, which is a really useful thing. If you go to the dynamic zoom and swap it and go, and as I said, as a general rule of thumb, just put ease in and ease out, and if you can see that you will get a smooth zoom in motion here. You won't understand on that clip, so I'm just putting the zoom in motion here. I'm putting a dynamic zoom here. I'm swapping it. Swapping is just changing from zooming in and zooming out. So if you see here, you can see that there is a small zoom in happening here. You can actually use this small red button to toggle off and toggle on the effect. This is with the effect, and this is without the effect, which is kind of really cool. You don't have to go to the zoom window and change every parameter every time. You just have to use the dynamic zoom, which is kind of really useful when you're having these kind of explanatory videos, and you don't have to actually do zoom in and zoom out for every video. Just use dynamic zoom and cut short your editing time. So composite is much like opacity if you're using Photoshop or any kind of Adobe products. So let's see here. So here you can see that there is a composite. So just go to the settings to just go to the setting to get the whole inspector tablet. So if you see here, there is a composite window and composite mode. You can change it to color, darken or anything like that, and change the overlay of any footage. You can actually do this with text or anything, maybe it's video, audio, titles or anything. Can change your composition to your own advantage, and using your creativity you can make in a lot of specific effects. Okay. Now the next thing is stabilization. Stabilization is really good inside Davinci Resolve, and you can see that there are a lot of other stabilization or the other features inside stabilization, such as perspective, similarity and translation. Perspective is the most stabilized footage, but it actually depends on what type of footage you actually use. I will make a separate video on stabilization to actually explain you on detail what is stabilization and what is the difference between perspective, similarity and translation. And you can change the smoothness parameter. Smoothness parameter is somewhat like the strength, but how smooth your stabilization should be. Okay, stabilization 101. If you see in phone commercials, there are stabilization known as optical stabilization and digital stabilization. So this stabilization is more of like a digital stabilization that we are doing here. In the simplest explanation, optical image stabilization is a hardware thing, while digital stabilization is a software related thing. That being said, you can't actually purchase a optical stabilizer inside your camera after you have bought it. You can actually purchase a digital stabilization software after or before you buy a camera. That's simple. Every stabilization that we are doing inside Resolve, apart from tracking, is actually a form of digital stabilization. Now lens correction is very useful if you are using wide angle lenses. Wide angle lenses actually have this curvature thing. You can actually change and change the curvature by using lens correction. This feature is only accessible when you have a pro version of Davinci Resolve 17 or the studio version. It's not actually there inside the base version or the free version. So next thing is the retime and scale. Retime and scale is really important, and only one thing that you should actually study is going to retime processor and going to the optical flow. This is the only thing that you have to actually know. Optical flow is used to actually used to smoothen out the footage, but can be used to actually make a 30 fps video into a 60 fps video and take full advantage of the whole slow motion, even for a base video which is shot at 25 fps, you can change it to the 30 fps video. If you want to actually know the use of optical flow, see this video and see this video which I link in the top portion here, so which will help you to even make a extra smooth slow motion even if you have a base level camera. Okay, now if you switch here inside the inspector tablet, you can actually treat your audio, increase and decrease the volume of the audio. Panning is nothing but changing the audio. If you have a stereo audio, you can actually change it audio to play on the left speaker or go to the right speaker, whereby you can actually have a 3D surrounding audio, which is kind of really cool. If you are into a high-end audio designing, then panning will be known to you. Pitching is just changing the type of audio. You can actually make a male audio to a female audio, or a normal audio to a cartoonish audio. Equalizer is kind of not really complicated, but it's the essence of audio treatment.
Thank you so much, best friend.
And you can actually change the audio, you can improve the audio quality by using the equalizer. Okay, this is the basic thing that you can actually do inside the edit page. Now for those people who want to actually learn about edit page, this is the whole essence of edit page, this whole bar which we will use frequently inside Davinci Resolve edit page. I'm just closing every other window. Now this is the arrow bar where you can actually use mouse as arrow and change everything here. If you go and select this cut bar, now you will actually have this cutting tool or the blade tool which you can use to cut the video here and there, and you can actually change the length of the video. In order to change the length of the video, you have to switch it to the arrow bar. You have to switch it to the arrow icon and change the length of the video. These are the two things which you will frequently use as a cut page. And the other thing is this playback thing. Trim editing is kind of really useful when you're replaying through a certain portion of the footage and you just want to replay this portion again and again till you actually correctly edit the whole portion. I'm not explaining this in detail here because it's not a really long explanation, but it's not really relevant if you just want to actually learn the edit page. So as we said, this is the insert. As we discussed inside the cut page, there is the insert clip and the override clip, the replace clip option here, which you can actually do it by shortcuts like F9, F10 and F11. I usually do it by shortcut. I do not use these things because it's kind of a time waste to move the cursor from the media pool and go back and click this switch here. You can actually do this by your shortcuts. Now the next important thing, that is the linking here. So linking is really important. Why? Because you can see that this one is the snapping tool. Snapping tool is used to actually snap the video. So I'm just switching to the arrow button. So if I off the snapping, you can see that the video moves seamlessly between every clips. You can actually use it for fine editing. Okay, but if I on the snapping tool here, you can see that if I go near to any clip, the video will automatically snap to the next clip, which is present in the left side or right side, which is kind of really useful when you're going for the basic edit. And if you want to refine your editing, just off the snapping and refine your editing here. You can actually place in between anything. Okay, now linking is really useful when you're going for high-end video editing. That is, if you off the linking, you can actually move the video and move the video without moving the audio of the video. Now the bad thing about linking is, like, if you move somewhat like this, and then press the linking and then on the linking again. Now if you move the video, the audio is not in sync with the video, but it moves in a really weird way. Now if you have this problem, you can either off the linking and just delete the audio here without deleting the video, so that everything, if you have a scenario where you don't need the the recorded audio inside the video because you have a high level audio, high quality audio which you have recorded by any external means, and you don't really need the in camera audio. you just need the in-camera video or vice versa. You can use the linking here. Okay, now lock position is nothing but you can actually lock all the layers. Now you can't actually move anything here, which is kind of useful when you are actually, you can actually do it for, you can actually do it if you are, you know
what, in life, don't cover the charge by don't charge the cover, charge the book. Man, don't book the cover, book. Don't whatever, don't do it, just don't do it.
Lock position. Okay, now the next thing is adding in flags and markers, which is a really useful thing if you want to add markers and add a little note somewhat like this. If you want to add a transition here, just type in add a transition, and if you hover over it, you can actually see that there is a note here and you need to add a transition, and you just go to the FX library and go to the transition and add a transition somewhere here. It's just a reminder thing, it's nothing really complicated. This is the zoom in and zoom out parameter. I literally don't use this because I am really much comfortable using this or the shortcuts 1 and 2 in my keyboard. Traditionally it would be the plus and minus inside your number lock on top of your keyboard, but I have used my custom shortcut as 1 and 2 because I don't want to actually have a travel from my, I don't actually need to travel from the left side of the keyboard to the right side of the keyboard. So that's that. So this is the end of edit page tutorial on Davinci Resolve 17. I hope you guys liked it. So if you like it and if you want to be updated on these kind of amazing content on Davinci Resolve 17 as well as video marketing, then do subscribe to the channel and smash that like button if you like this video. Stay happy, and until next time, peace.
Keep it